Most men fear turning 60. But here's the truth. No one dares to say out loud, if you reach 60 and can still do a handful of things that most men your age have already abandoned, you are stronger, sharper, and more dangerous than the average man alive. Not because your body is young, but because your spirit refused to age. You see, time doesn't weaken a man. It simply reveals what he's built. At 60, you've lived through storms young men can't imagine. You've carried losses, victories, heartbreaks, responsibilities, and regrets, yet you're still standing. And if you can still do this, you're not just surviving your age. You're outrunning it. You're proving that masculinity doesn't disappear. With years, it condenses, sharpens, and turns into something more powerful than muscle. Presence, discipline, inner strength. The kind of energy that makes younger men step aside without knowing why. Today, we're breaking down the 7 marks of a man over 60 who is still a warrior, the man whose fire never went out, only burned quieter and hotter. If you're over, try again. This video will show you exactly where you stand. If you're younger, it will show you the man you must become. Let's begin. A man's body tells the truth long before his words ever do. At 60, your muscles may soften. Your joints may protest. Your back may remind you of every hard year you've lived. But there is something far more important than the physical surface. Whether your body still obeys your will. Most men at this age have surrendered. Not because they're weak, but because they accepted weakness as normal. They stopped fighting, stopped challenging themselves, stopped pushing even a little beyond comfort. And the moment a man stops pushing, he begins aging twice as fast. But if you can still move with purpose, if you can still climb stairs, lift modest weight, walk with strength in your stride, rise from a chair without struggling, carry your groceries without trembling, you've already separated yourself from the majority. Because at 60, your physical strength stops being about aesthetics. It becomes a reflection of discipline. There is a difference between the man who has simply lived 60 years and the man who has earned 60 years. One body carries the marks of neglect, the other carries the marks of battle. And the men who are still strong, not the kind of strength you brag about, but the quiet kind, share one thing in common. They refuse to let decline dictate the rest of their life. They understood that aging doesn't mean you stop training. It means you train differently, more deliberately, more intelligently, more consistently. Think about it. When you climb 2 flights of stairs without gasping, it isn't just lung capacity. It's proof that you're still engaged in life, that you're not letting gravity win, that you haven't handed your vitality over to excuses. When a man your age walks with strength, people notice. Younger men notice. Women notice. Even strangers feel it. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's the posture of a man who didn't let time break him. Because strength past 60 is no longer physical, it is symbolic. Every controlled step says, I'm still here. Every firm handshake says, I haven't softened. Every steady movement says, I'm not done yet. You see, most men shrink themselves with age. Their world becomes smaller, their ambitions narrower, their energy dimmer, But a man who keeps his body alive, even in small ways, keeps his life expansive. Because the truth is brutally simple. If you don't challenge your body will challenge you. If you don't move, you'll rust. If you don't stretch, you'll stiffen. If you don't exert effort, you'll lose the ability to, not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, silently, year by year. And here is what most men never understand. Maintaining physical strength after 60 isn't just about health. It's about identity. At 60, your strength becomes psychological armor. It protects your confidence, your dignity, your presence as a man. A strong older man commands respect, not because of size, but because he carries proof of everything he's survived and everything he refuses to surrender. Look at the men who are truly alive in their 60 seconds, 70 seconds, even 80 seconds. You will notice something. They are not the biggest, not the most muscular, not the most gifted genetically. They are the men who kept showing up, men who kept walking, even on the days the body whispered rest. Men who did a few push-ups, even when it didn't look impressive. Men who stayed mobile, stayed active, stayed engaged. Men who refused to become fragile. Their strength doesn't come from youth. It comes from habit. It comes from stubbornness, from grit, from a promise made quietly to themselves. Decades ago, I'll never stop being a man. And that's why strength at 60 hits different. It's rare. It's earned. It's respected. It's inspiring not just to the young, but to the old who gave up too soon. So, if you're 60 and your body still responds when you command it, understand this: you're not average. You're not typical. You're not just another older guy. You are part of the few, the men who didn't surrender their physicality to age. You are proof that masculinity doesn't expire. It deepens. Because the body that refuses to quit belongs to the man who hasn't finished living. There's a moment in a man's life, usually somewhere between 55 and 65, where his mind either becomes sharper than ever or begins to fade. Not because of age itself, but because of the choices he makes when life becomes quieter. You've seen it. Some men at 60 look lost inside their own homes. They forget what day it is. They lose track of conversations. They misplace the same items over and over again. Their mind becomes a fog, not because it had to, but because they stopped using it. But then there are the others. Men whose minds are weapons. Men who speak with precision. Who remember details. Who think faster than men half their age. Who learn new skills. Adapt. And make decisions with a clarity that intimidates younger men. What separates these two groups isn't genetics. It's engagement. A man's brain doesn't age, it hibernates when he stops challenging it. Most men fall into mental decline because life stops demanding sharpness from them. Their job is over. Their responsibilities shrink. Their routines become predictable. Their world gets smaller. And with it, their mind does too. But the man who stays mentally dangerous does the exact opposite. He keeps learning. He keeps thinking. He keeps solving. He keeps challenging his own beliefs. He keeps training his mind the same way he trains his body through tension and effort. Men over 60 who remain razor-sharp share one core trait: they feed their brain instead of numbing it. They read instead of doom scroll. They write instead of complain. They solve problems instead of avoid them. They engage in conversations that stretch their thinking. They ask questions. They stay curious. Curiosity is youth. The moment you stop being curious, your mind begins to wrinkle. You can see it in how a man speaks. A mentally sharp 60-year-old doesn't ramble or drift. He aims his words like arrows. He has clarity because he has lived long enough to filter out the useless. He doesn't get distracted by noise. He doesn't chase trends. He doesn't drown in drama. His mind is quiet and dangerous. Dangerous because he sees everything. He hears what goes unsaid. He notices patterns younger men are too inexperienced to catch. He reads intention behind tone. He can sense when someone is lying, manipulating, or wasting his time. That level of awareness isn't age. It's mastery. And mastery is only earned by a man who refuses mental decay. Memory, too, is a form of strength. Most men think forgetting things is just part of getting older. But forgetting is rarely a physical issue. It's a lack of attention issue, a lack of engagement issue. The man who stays mentally sharp at 60 isn't necessarily blessed. He's disciplined. He trains his memory the same way a warrior sharpens a blade, remembering conversations, recalling details, practicing mental exercises, solving problems, seeking new information, challenging himself with something unfamiliar. This is why some 60-year-old men can still negotiate deals, run business, lead teams, mentor younger men, and walk into any room with authority. Their mind is fully awake. Because the truth is simple, a sharp mind makes an older man more powerful than a younger man with physical strength alone. Younger men rely on energy. Older men rely on strategy. And strategy always wins. When you're 60 with a clear, disciplined mind, you become harder to manipulate, harder to provoke, harder to confuse, harder to fool, harder to replace. Your life becomes calmer, not because there is less chaos, but because your perception has evolved. You don't panic anymore. You notice. You evaluate. You decide. That is masculine maturity at its peak. Younger men have speed. Older men have direction. Younger men rush. Older men choose. Junger men flicks. Older men understand. And that understanding is what makes a mentally sharp, older man dangerous. He knows when to act and when to stay silent. Most men fear the aging mind because they think it guarantees decline. But the man who stays curious, engaged, disciplined, and mentally active becomes something far more impressive. A strategist, a leader, a grounded, unshakable force. A man whose thoughts carry weight. At 60, your sharp mind becomes your greatest advantage because, while others slow down, you're just beginning to see clearly. Most men think balance is just a physical ability, something that fades naturally with age, like speed or flexibility. But the truth is far deeper. Balance is not a test of your body. Balance is a reflection of the discipline you've lived by. A man who reaches 60 and can still hold himself steady, standing on one leg, moving with fluidity, walking with confidence, is not simply lucky or genetically blessed. No, He is disciplined. He is connected. He is present inside his own body. Balance is stability, the foundation of masculine power. Think about it. A man who is unstable in his body is often unstable everywhere else. His decisions wobble. His emotions waver. His confidence cracks. His posture shows his surrender before his words ever do. But a man who stands firm, who can shift his weight effortlessly, hold himself upright, move with quiet control, radiates something younger. Men rarely possess a calm, grounded strength that comes only from decades of self-mastery. Balance is the physical expression of a disciplined life. It shows that you didn't allow the years to pull you forward into chaos or backward into regret. You remained centered. You remained grounded. You remained in control. Balance reveals how you've lived, because the truth is simple. A man who lives recklessly will eventually move recklessly. A man who neglects his body will eventually lose trust in it. A man who stops challenging himself will eventually collapse into fragility. But the disciplined man, the man who pushes himself, maintains his strength, trains his body, even when no one is watching, carries balance into old age like a badge of honor. He moves with the ease of someone who has never abandoned himself. Balance is posture, presence, and power. Watch a man over 60 enter a room. If he moves cautiously, eyes scanning for stability, posture slightly collapsed, you feel his fear before he speaks. But if he walks in steady, upright, controlled, aligned, you feel his presence before he sits. Men who retain balance radiate a certain feng thai, a masculine poise that makes people step aside without knowing why. It's the posture of a man who doesn't need to prove he is strong, because his very movement already proves it. Balance comes from the discipline of consistency. It comes from checking your body, challenging your center of gravity, stretching, moving, twisting, lifting, pushing, balancing even in small ways. It comes from the discipline of not letting yourself rot while the world whispers, "You're too old for this." Because discipline doesn't care about your age. Only excuses do. Balance is also mental and emotional stability. A man with balance doesn't overreact. He doesn't get rattled. He doesn't fall apart when life throws chaos at him. He takes a breath. He plants his feet. He stays grounded. Because his physical balance mirrors his internal balance, he has lived long enough to know that losing your center is the fastest way to lose your life. Balance is the quiet mark of a man who refuses to fall, not just physically, but morally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He stays upright when others fold. He stays steady when others shake. He stands firm when others collapse under pressure. And that is why a man over 60 who still has balance is not doing well for his age. He is doing well because of his discipline. He refused to surrender, and his body reflects that refusal in every step he takes. There is a kind of laughter only older men can produce, not the loud, careless laughter of youth, but something deeper, warmer, and far more powerful. It's the laugh of a man who has been bruised but not broken, who has walked through fire and somehow still carries light in his chest. Most men think aging is about losing strength, But the truth is far more subtle. A man begins to age the moment he stops laughing. Laughter is not just joy. It's resilience. It's emotional endurance. It is proof that life did not crush you even when it tried. A man who can still laugh at 60 is a man life has failed to defeat. Think about this deeply. Life hits men harder than it hits anyone else. Responsibility builds weight. Loss carves scars. Disappointment settles into the bones. Regret becomes a shadow that follows you everywhere. By the time a man reaches 60, he has already buried dreams, lost friends, ended relationships, struggled silently, and carried burdens the world never thanked him for. Most men become hardened. They turn bitter. They fold into themselves. They stop smiling. Their faces collapse into seriousness, worry, and despair. But the man who can still laugh, truly laugh, is different. He is undefeated. Because laughter at that age means one thing: I didn't let life steal my joy. Laughter is proof of emotional strength, not emotional softness. Younger men often think being serious makes them masculine. They confuse stoicism with emotional numbness. They believe showing joy is childish. But real stoicism isn't about being stone-faced. It's about not being controlled by pain. A man who can still laugh at 60 doesn't laugh because life is easy. He laughs because he has mastered perspective. He knows pain is temporary. Storm, pass. Nothing is worth losing your soul over. And joy is a form of rebellion. Laughing in your 60 seconds is not immaturity, it's dominance. It's the ultimate I survived. Most men lose the ability to laugh because they lose belief in life. Somewhere along the way, they gave up on love, gave up on adventure, gave up on possibility, gave up on themselves. Their laughter died the moment they accepted defeat as their identity. But the men who still laugh have something different inside them: faith. Not naive optimism, but a quiet conviction that life is still worth participating in. They still feel wonder. They still chase curiosity. They still find beauty in ordinary moments. They still see the joke in situations others take too seriously. This is what makes them magnetic. People are drawn to men who haven't let suffering harden their spirit. Laughter is an indicator of youth that no wrinkle can erase. When a man laughs deeply, belly laugh, eyes crinkled, shoulders relaxed, something incredible happens. He looks younger, not physically, energetically. That spark, that light, that joy, it resurrects the younger version of him. It reminds people of the man he used to be and still is. Beneath the layers of experience, women feel safer around men who can still laugh. Men feel calmer around them. Children trust them. Why? Because laughter is a signal of internal stability. A man who can find humor in life is a man who isn't drowning in it. Laughter requires courage, more than people admit. Cynicism is easy. Negativity is easy. Bitterness is easy. But to laugh after heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, stress, illness, loss that takes courage. Cowards don't laugh. They complain. The defeated don't laugh. They blame, The bitter don't laugh. They spread bitterness. But the warrior laughs. The resilient man laughs. The man who has lived deeply and refused to collapse laughs. Because laughter is not denial, it's control. It's saying, I choose joy. Even when life refuses to hand it to me. A man who laughs freely has not lost himself. He has seen darkness, but didn't allow it to define him. He has tasted sorrow, but still values sweetness. He has been hurt, but didn't let pain turn him into someone he hates. And most importantly, he did not surrender the boy living inside him, the child who used to dream. Hope. Imagine. Explore. Men lose their innocence, but they should never lose their inner light. Laughter is the flicker that proves the light is still there. Laughing at 60 means you still believe in tomorrow. You still believe in connection. You still believe in adventure. You still believe life can surprise you. You still believe you have something left to offer the world. A man who can laugh hasn't reached the end. He's simply moved into a new chapter with more stories behind him and better wisdom ahead of him. He is alive, not just breathing, and that makes him rare. Because most men are physically alive at 60, but emotionally dead by 45. A laughing man over 60 is a man whose heart is still awake. A man who refuses to let bitterness win. A man who can stand at the edge of everything he's been through and say, life hit me hard, but I'm still here, and I still choose joy. That, brother, is strength. Not muscles, not money, not titles, but the ability to feel light after a lifetime of heaviness, and only truly powerful men can do that. When a man crosses 60, the world begins to shrink around him. Old colleagues retire. Children build lives of their own. Friends move, drift, or disappear. Loved ones pass away. And slowly, the social circle that once felt endless becomes a quiet echo. Most older men end up isolated not because they want to be alone, but because life has slowly pulled everyone away from them. But the ones who truly thrive in their 60 seconds, the ones who remain strong, sharp, grounded, and fully alive, they have something the others lost. Brotherhood. Not casual acquaintances. Not drinking buddies. Not old co-workers they speak to once a year. But real brothers, men who stand beside them, talk to them, share life with them, sharpen them, and remind them they are not carrying life alone. Brotherhood is the last fortress of a man's spirit, and by the time a man reaches 60, it becomes essential. Because, here's a truth most men discover too late: the body weakens faster when a man is alone. The mind sharpens slower when a man is alone. The soul grows heavier when a man is alone. A man without brotherhood ages twice as fast physically, mentally, and emotionally. But a man with brotherhood, he becomes timeless. Brotherhood keeps a man anchored. You can tell everything about an older man by one simple thing. Does he still have men he can talk to honestly? Men who can't talk to other men become silent prisoners of their own thoughts. They carry stress with no outlet, fear with no reassurance, memories with no one to share them with, loneliness with no witness. And loneliness is lethal for a man. But the man who still has brothers, his emotional weight is shared. His thoughts stay sharp. His stories stay alive. His identity stays intact. Brotherhood is not just company, it's survival. A man's friends reflect his strength. When you see a man in his 60 seconds, still surrounded by other strong, grounded, respectable men, one thing becomes clear. He has lived well. Because men don't follow weak men. They don't stay close to selfish men. They don't open their hearts to bitter men. If a man still has good brothers at 60, it means he earned them through loyalty, through integrity, through presence, through shared battles and mutual respect. Women bring warmth to a man's life, but men bring backbone to each other. A man without brotherhood becomes emotionally hollow. It starts subtly. He spends more time indoors. His voice grows quieter. His laughter becomes rare. He stops answering calls. He stops reaching out. He stops living outwardly. He feels the world getting farther. He feels himself disappearing. It's not depression, it's erosion. Brotherhood prevents erosion. It keeps a man connected to life. It keeps him remembered. It keeps him accountable. It keeps him human. Brotherhood sharpens a man's mind. Men who stay socially connected into their 60 seconds and 70 seconds actually retain sharper memory, better cognitive function, slower aging, higher purpose, stronger emotional resilience. Why? Because men push men. A brother challenges you. He calls you out. He makes you think. He keeps you sharp. He checks on you. He keeps you anchored to your identity. Vommen nurture. Brothers refine. Brotherhood gives a man something to fight for. Men decline fastest when they feel irrelevant. But brotherhood keeps a man needed, valued, and engaged. A brother might call you for advice, ask for your help, share a struggle, invite you somewhere, push you out of the house, remind you that you still matter. Purpose fades when a man is alone. Brotherhood reignites it. Brotherhood gives older men a reason to keep living boldly. Because what destroys a man is not age, it is meaninglessness. At 60, a man doesn't need a crowd. He needs a tribe. Not many men, just a handful. Men he respects. Men he trusts. Men he would stand for and who stand for him. These relationships do not just enrich the last decades of a man's life, they define them. Brotherhood is a cathedral built over decades. It's constructed from shared laughter, shared losses, shared victories, quiet conversations, unspoken understanding, loyalty without conditions, presence without judgment. By 60, many men regret not building this cathedral earlier. But the wise man knows brotherhood can be rebuilt at any age if you are willing to show up as a man. Because real brotherhood is not made of time. It is made of truth. Brotherhood is a mirror. A man sees who he is, reflected in the men he surrounds himself with. If his brothers are strong, he becomes stronger. If his brothers are disciplined, he becomes disciplined. If his brothers are wise, he becomes wise. And if he has no brothers at all, he becomes invisible even to himself. A man over 60 who still has brotherhood is unbreakable. The world may grow smaller, but brotherhood keeps his heart wide. His life may quiet down, but brotherhood keeps his voice loud. His responsibilities may lessen, but brotherhood keeps his purpose high. These men, the ones who still gather, still talk, still laugh, still challenge each other, they don't age. They evolve. A man with brotherhood is never truly old. A man without it is never truly young. There is a moment in every man's life, usually somewhere after 50, often around 60, when he realizes something profound. No one is coming to save him. No one is responsible for him. No one owes him anything. And in that realization, a man either collapses or he awakens. The men who collapse become dependent. They wait for someone else to cook for them, care for them, guide them, entertain them, or give them purpose. But the men who awaken, they become sovereign. Sovereignty isn't about ruling others. It's about ruling yourself. And if you can still take care of yourself at 60, truly take care of yourself, you are already stronger than most men alive. Because self-sufficiency at that age is not normal anymore. It's extraordinary. Self-care is not softness, it is self-respect. Men have been conditioned their entire lives to believe that taking care of themselves is something optional, something secondary, something feminine. They were raised to be providers, protectors, workers, warriors, but rarely taught how to nourish themselves. So, when many men reach their 60 seconds, they become helpless without a partner. They don't cook. They don't maintain their home. They don't check their health. They don't manage their emotions. They don't take responsibility for their well-being. They spent decades taking care of others, but never learned how to take care of themselves. But the sovereign man, the one who stands tall, even in his 60 seconds, he has learned something vital. Self-reliance is the foundation of freedom. Cooking is not survival. It is mastery. If a man can still cook a real meal for himself at 60, he holds a power. Younger men today don't even understand, because cooking is not just food. It is planning. It is discipline. It is control. It is creativity. Cooking means you are not dependent on someone else for your most basic survival. It means you can still take the raw materials of life and turn them into something meaningful. It means you are still engaged with the rhythm of living, not drifting through it passively. A man who can cook for himself is a man who refuses to be helpless. A man who refuses to be helpless is a man the world can never break. Sovereignty is managing your own environment. A sovereign man keeps his home in order. Not spotless perfection, but order. Because order outside creates order inside. At 60, your environment becomes a reflection of your inner strength. A clean, functional home means clarity. A well-maintained space means discipline. A peaceful environment means emotional maturity. A life without clutter means a mind without chaos. Most men let their surroundings deteriorate with age. They stop caring. They stop organizing. They stop maintaining. But the sovereign man understands your home is your kingdom, and a king keeps his kingdom in order. Sovereignty is self-health. Most men surrender their bodies after 50. By 60, they rely entirely on doctors, medication, and external intervention. But the sovereign man, he stays informed. He listens to his body. He honors his strength. He respects his limits. He takes preventative action. He walks, stretches, lifts, breathes, drinks water, gets sun, rests well, eats clean, not because he is trying to stay young, but because he knows that discipline is dignity. Your health is not a burden. It is a responsibility. A sovereign man understands this better than anyone. Sovereignty is emotional independence. Many men enter their later years emotionally fragile. They depend on others for validation, reassurance, entertainment, connection, purpose. But the sovereign man has learned the art of being alone without being lonely. He knows how to ground himself. He knows how to comfort himself. He knows how to show up for himself. He does not wait for someone to regulate his emotions. He does not crumble when someone withdraws. He does not lose his identity when a relationship ends. His peace is internal, not situational. And that is rare, because at 60, most men have let emotional dependence replace emotional discipline. Sovereignty is financial self-command. You don't need to be rich to be sovereign. You need to be responsible. A sovereign man knows where his money goes, what his priorities are, what he can control, what he cannot control. He manages what he has with clarity. He is not careless. He is not confused. He is not hiding from reality. Financial sovereignty at 60 is not about wealth, it is about stability. And stability is strength. Sovereignty is spiritual steadiness. A man in his 60 seconds who still stands firm in his beliefs, values, and inner philosophy becomes unshakable. Stoicism, faith, discipline, experience whatever anchor he chooses. He holds it with intention, because by this age, the world has already tried its best to break him. If he still stands, it is because he planted himself deep. Sovereignty is choosing your life instead of being dragged through it. Most men let life happen to them, but the sovereign man still takes action. Even in his 60 seconds, he cooks, he cleans, he builds, he repairs, he learns, he decides, he maintains, he protects, he evolves. He does not wait. He does not beg. He does not drift. He takes responsibility for every part of his existence. That is sovereignty. And at 60, it is one of the rarest forms of masculine strength left in the world. Because a man who can still take care of himself at 60 is a man who cannot be controlled. Not by loneliness, not by dependency, not by fear, not by circumstance, not by age. He is his own anchor, his own provider, his own protector, his own leader. That is true masculine freedom. That is sovereignty. And if you still hold that power at 60, you're already far stronger than most men alive. There is a moment in a man's life, especially after 60, when he finally understands the true weight of every choice he makes. Not the big ones, not the dramatic ones, but the daily, quiet decisions that reveal whether he is a king or a man ruled by hesitation. Most men over 60 lose their decisiveness. They drag their feet, they overthink, they seek permission, they delay, they fear making mistakes. Their entire identity collapses into one quiet sentence: I don't know. But the men who stay powerful at 60, the truly dominant, grounded, Respected men, they live by a different code. They decide quickly, calmly, with authority, not because they're reckless, but because they understand the deepest truth of masculine leadership. Indecision is the slowest form of death. A man who cannot decide becomes a man the world stops respecting. People stop asking for his opinion. Family stops relying on him. Life stops responding to him. But a man who can still make clear decisions at 60, he becomes someone others naturally follow. His presence carries weight. His voice carries certainty. His choices carry direction. Because decisiveness is not about ego, it is about identity. A king decides because he knows who he is. Men who hesitate do so for one reason. They are afraid of choosing wrong because they no longer trust themselves. Years of mistakes, failures, disappointments, aging, and pressure weaken their inner compass. By 60, most men's confidence has eroded quietly. Their choices don't feel like theirs anymore. Their vision fades. Their authority dissolves. But the sovereign man, the king, reclaims his authority through decision. He understands. A decision defines direction. Direction creates momentum. Momentum builds identity. Identity builds strength. Every choice he makes fortifies who he is. Quick decision-making is not impulsiveness. It is wisdom distilled. At 60, a man has seen enough life to recognize patterns instantly. He doesn't need weeks to analyze something he has already lived through a dozen times. He knows the difference between a good opportunity and a distraction, a genuine connection and a manipulative one, a necessary risk and a foolish one, a temporary emotion and a permanent truth. Youth requires analysis. Age requires clarity. That clarity becomes authority. A man who can still decide quickly at 60 is dangerous in the best way because he cannot be manipulated. He cannot be guilted into choices. He cannot be pressured by noise. He cannot be rushed by insecurity. He cannot be softened by fear. He stands firm. Evaluatis. He chooses. And when he chooses, he commits. That is why people, especially younger men and women, instinctively respect older men who still carry this energy. A decisive man creates safety. He creates certainty. He creates momentum. A man who decides quickly is a man who still owns his future. Indecision is just fear wearing the mask of logic. But decisiveness is courage disguised as calm. A man who still makes firm decisions at 60 hasn't surrendered his future to chance, circumstance, other people, excuses, or time. He chooses his path every day, and that keeps him alive. Because a man doesn't age when his hair turns grey. He ages when he stops choosing. Choosing action. Choosing purpose. Choosing discipline. Choosing direction. Choosing life. Decisiveness creates dignity. As men grow older, there are fewer things they can physically control, but they can always control their attitude, their standards, their boundaries, their lifestyle, their effort, their decisions. And when a man still makes decisions from strength rather than fear, dignity radiates from him. People listen. People follow. People trust him. Not because he is loud, but because he is clear. A king does not hesitate, because hesitation creates weakness. Most older men let life happen to them. The king happens to life. He wakes up with intention. He structures his day. He decides his priorities. He chooses what he tolerates and what he refuses. He chooses who enters his life. He chooses how he ages. He chooses how he shows up for himself. A king does not wait for external validation to move. He moves, and the world adjusts. Decisiveness is the last expression of masculine authority. Not money, not strength, not youth, not status, but command. Command over your day. Command over your emotions. Command over your environment. Command over your choices. Command over your life. When a man can still do that at 60, he becomes something rare. A man who has not been defeated by time. A man who still walks like he owns his name. A man who still carries authority in silence. The final mark of a king is simple. He chooses with clarity. He acts with courage. He stands by his decisions fully. That is why decisiveness is the highest expression of masculine energy. Not aggression, not dominance, but certainty. Certainty in who you are, where you're going, and what you refuse to become. And if you can still make decisions like that at 60, you are not just aging well. You are ruling your life. If you're over 60 and you're still climbing, still thinking sharply, still laughing deeply, still choosing your direction, still holding your standards, you are not an old man. You are a forged man, a man who survived heartbreak, pressure, responsibility, loss, disappointment, and change, and somehow came out more grounded than you went in. Most men surrender to age, but you've proven something far greater. Strength is not measured in years, but in the refusal to let years take your strength. And if you're younger watching this, understand something now. You do not become a powerful 60-year-old by accident. You build him every day, through discipline, through self-respect, through the decisions you make when no one is watching. Because the man you are becoming is the man you'll carry into your older years. Your 60 seconds aren't the end. They're the reveal. The moment life shows you exactly who you've built. And if you can still do these 7 things, you're not fading. You're rising. You're entering the era of the unbroken man, the man younger men salute without knowing why. This is your reminder. Age does not weaken a disciplined man. It sharpens him. It steels him. It crowns him. If this message woke something inside you, if you're ready to stay sharp, stay strong, stay sovereign well into your 60 seconds, 70 seconds, and beyond, then don't walk away from this video and forget it. Take the next step. Subscribe if you're building the mindset of a man who refuses to break. Comment below. Strength is a choice, and I choose it daily. Share this with a man who needs to remember that age is not his enemy, his comfort is. This channel isn't entertainment. It's a training ground, a forge for men who want to walk the world with presence, power, and peace at any age. Your best years aren't behind you. They're waiting for the man you're becoming. Stay sharp. Stay disciplined. Stay legendary.